Happy New Year, security peeps. It is Renee Small here in the Breaking Into Cybersecurity podcast and webinar series. I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Chris Foulon. Chris, say hi to everybody. And our first guest of 2020, Chrystina Nguyen. Say hi to everyone, Chrystina.
Hello.
So we are excited to have Chrystina on. She's been in her company for the last 18 months. She's a noob, or relatively not super noob, but somewhat of a noob in the cybersecurity space. So she's going to talk to us about how she broke into the industry. And Chrystina, I just want to jump it off by saying, hey, Happy New Year, Happy 2020, and
Yeah.
tell us how you got into the cybersecurity field.
Oh, thank you again for having me on this platform. I'm, super nervous and super happy to be here. And good choice on words for noob. I'm not sure if you saw my LinkedIn, but I literally use season noob as my hashtag season noob thing to keep me up to date with people. But how I broke into technology space, I was telling Chris earlier that I actually didn't want to come into the technology space. I didn't think they wanted me to be here, but I was dragged in by the collar of my shirt by my boss now. I'm a restaurant girl. I've been in the restaurant industry for over 10 years at a pretty established restaurant company here in the area. And I was pretty much a corporate bookkeeper for them. But backtracking how I got into where I am today, the restaurant that I worked at for 6 years, when I was 16, I worked at this restaurant, and my boss today was a regular there. Him and his wife used to frequent, dining there every Friday. And, if you see somebody every Friday, you're going to connect with them, being as seasoned as I was as a hostess. So we got really acquainted. I've known them since I was 16. And funny story was, a few years back in 2017, I cut their son's hair. And I don't do hair. I have purple hair, but I don't really do hair. And I was cutting their son's hair, and thankfully they have redhead curly hair, and it's very forgiving. And I messed that hair up so bad. So they didn't talk to me for a whole year, which is okay. We still connected on Facebook and stuff. It wasn't like they iced me out or anything. But in February of 2018, they gave me a call, and I was like, oh, snap, they want me to cut their son's hair again. That didn't happen. What they did was asked me to come leave the company I was with to work for them as a project coordinator. So I did have some background in IT. Not really. When I say I did not think I was good for IT, I went to IT Technical Institute, RIP. They're no longer with us. But I specifically avoided going to those IT courses that they offered. So I went the project management route. So I have a project management degree with a drafting and design background. And lo and behold, when I was doing my last year with this company that I was with for 10 years, my last year I was a corporate bookkeeper, but I also did this project management point of sale system integration, where I integrated a new sales platform for 4 of the biggest locations in the company I was with. And I don't know if I could say the name, if it's worth it, but I just know that $42 million in sales passed through that point of sale system that I helped integrate, which is awesome. And that was kind of the highlight, and as close as I felt to IT. And timing wise, I was kind of interviewing for some inner positions with my company. And that's when they gave me a call and was like, hey, do you want to leave Clyde's? Or Clyde's is the company I worked for. Do you want to leave Clyde's and come work for us? And at the time, I actually said no. I've been with Clyde's for so long. I've loved them. Great company. And I have no place being in IT, right? I was super scared of just doing that. And lo and behold, they gave me the interview, right? It doesn't hurt to take the interview. And I went into this interview in my mind telling myself that I'm not gonna do it. But I haven't done an interview in a long time, so why not? So I did the interview, and it was great. It actually really gave me a lot of insight, a lot of support that I could actually switch in a way. And one of the lines that my boss now has told me then that really got me to take that leap was, is there anybody above you that you want to be in my company that I was with? And at the time with Clyde's, there was only 2 other positions, and the likelihood of those positions coming up within the next 10 years was very slim. So at that point I was like, oh man, you're right. I'm nearly as high as I can be in the company that I'm at. So why not take that leap? So I did. And it was really unnerving to do that, because they didn't hire me in the sales role that I'm in today. They hired me as a junior project manager, basically.
Right.
But I didn't have a technical background. But at the same time, they assured me that that's not what they were looking for, that they wanted to have somebody kind of outside of the box to help and be a part of their team that way. And with that kind of notion, with that kind of support, that made it a little bit more easier for me to come across that, that hump of being a part of the technology community. And, the first 6 months was super rough. There was a lot of head trash, a lot of imposter syndrome on my own part. A very supportive team here, so there was no discourse here, but it was just getting used to this whole office thing, how quiet it is. Being from the restaurant industry, things are moving fast and things get done fast, and everything's on some type of urgency panic mode half the time. And to come into an office where it's be quiet. You have certain things, certain cadence you have to be in, and I was just this is not for me. I can't do this. But luckily, I passed that hump. And
so the culture was really different.
Yeah, completely different. That was the most biggest thing that was super scary for me, to be oh man, what if this culture is going to kick me out because I'm not a part of it? I can't be this quiet person. But at the same time, what I did find is that the industry is very welcoming. I really didn't think it was, but that was my own head trash, not knowing that. But now that I'm in it, it is so much more welcoming to folks like me, and folks like me who are outside of the technology industry that I've spoken to have definitely, are against going into an industry they don't know, right? And being that I'm in a part of that industry now, that I can speak that and say, hey, I didn't know anything about this place. I tried really hard not to be in technology.
Yeah.
And here I am in a technology company that I love. And I love the role that I'm in right now. And it's kind of a weird hybrid brand ambassador, BDR kind of role.
Right.
But I would have never, if you asked me 2 years ago, if I was going to be in an IT company, let alone in sales, I'd say you're fucking kidding.
I'm curious.
I would never do that.
So it's so funny. What you're saying is very similar to what a lot of leaders had told me about people that they brought into the industry that didn't really have a cybersecurity background or an IT background, something that they saw in them that made this person really stand out. And they said, I want to bring this person on the team. Do you know what it is that your current bosses saw in you that made them want you to come on and to switch industries and cultures and everything?
So great question. I actually had a one-to-one with my boss the other day, kind of the end of the year kind of review. And that was actually one of my questions. Boss, it's been 18 months now. I've been in the game for a little while. What made you ask me to come into this place, knowing I'm not technical? And one of them, he assured me that they were specifically looking for somebody non-technical to kind of broaden their spectrum of, of that. What he did see is that I can connect with people, that I do have a very restaurant, well, I don't know if it's restaurant, but a camaraderie, some type of open mind to being able to work well with people. So, I mean, it's a lot of the soft skills I think he was kind of honing on that I had. Which is very similar, as an analogy to use in restaurants. When I was a restaurant girl, we want people with soft skills because we can teach you all the technical stuff with restaurants. We can't teach you to be nice to people. We can't teach you to talk to people. And I feel that's kind of what he saw in me, is that I'm able to, that I can do those things and that I'm open-minded to learning more and challenging myself to be more technical and having that open-mindedness to do that. So I think that's kind of the premise that he was going with when he brought me on.
How did you go about learning the technical? Like, what did you do to get yourself up to speed in the industry, in the company? What did you do?
So coming from a certification perspective, I am not certified in anything. I will say that. And I know that was kind of one of your topics that was brought up in some of your other podcasts interviews was, the offering of certifications. I definitely think it's important to have that. What I did the first 6 months is I went into every single one of our stand-ups. I was a part of their stand-up meetings, and pretty much all the technical meetings I sat in on, just to get an idea of what all these letters mean and what this process is and what Kanban is and Lean Kit and Jira and like all these things, right? So I did that for the first 6 months to really get me acquainted. And I think I've learned more now that I'm in the networking community with tech. And that has really helped me a lot too, surrounding myself with other technologists to kind of give me that opportunity to ask them, hey, what does TS mean? Or what does CISS mean, kind of thing. So I just ask questions, like not being afraid to ask questions. And I mean, the first 4 months I was like, man, they're going to think I'm dumb, that whole imposter syndrome thing. But once I got over that hump and being encouraged to ask questions, so I did. And I will say being open-minded and not being afraid to appear dumb. Something about feeling dumb is one thing, but appearing dumb is another. So like just always be inquisitive and wanting to push yourself to learn it. So I have done, I take beginner courses like Python, like 101 and GitHub 101. So I have done that. And when I did that, that was super cool. I was very excited to be like, oh my God, I wrote my first code. So I like those things. And I mean, I didn't go out and like do a certification, but I did surround myself with people who are versed in that to kind of pick their brain. And when you offer people that you need help, they're going to help you. It's just a matter of admitting that you need that help so they can offer that help for you. So I've done that, and just kind of keeping up to terms and talking to my engineering guys here and saying, hey, you said all these things in the stand-up earlier. What does that mean? Like, what does that do? Talk about, AD and all these like buzzwords and stuff. I did have a moment where I was just like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to nod my head and pretend I know. But that's been different now. So it's like, hey, what is that? Can you say that one more time? Am I understanding this right? So I wish I could do more and get more and sharpen my spear a little bit better. But for what I have done, it's surrounding myself with technologists and being open to showing how dumb you are and asking the right questions and being that person that they can approach you and actually tell you versus trying to pretend like you know it all.
And I would hate to say the word dumb because you're just unaware or uneducated in this space.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly you're a smart woman.
Yeah, but that's a lot of that stigma that I had before I came into this. I was like, oh, I'm dumb. Like I'm not technical. Why would they hire me?
Yeah.
So I know there's people out there listening for job seekers that feel that.
Yeah.
So I kind of use that. And I know as far as like growth mindset, you should never say that you're dumb or feel dumb. Like you're just unaware and you're going to find that answer soon. So I totally get it. Dumb is not the right word, but man, I certainly felt dumb coming into this.
No, I completely understand. I remember first coming in from HR and sitting in a meeting and wanting to ask a zillion questions because I'm one of those question asking type of people. And then I said to myself, I don't want to derail this whole meeting because I had, just like you, every time someone brought something up, I was like, what does that mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? So I was sitting there writing notes feverishly to go back and ask all these folks afterwards because I was very similar. I had no idea what was going on. So that's a really good story. I appreciate that.
And I mean, that interview that I took, and I don't know if it was because I took that interview the way I did. And this is what I tell people now when they do interviews is you go into this interview interviewing the company because you're about to spend your life with them versus like that fear that you're going to say something dumb. So when I went into this interview with the company I'm with now, I already had told myself I'm not coming into this company. So you guys have to convince me why I should leave the company I've been with for 10 years to come in. And as far as like that kind of vibe, that confidence that I had, I think every interviewing person, and I hear people on here that have interviewed like 30 or 40 times with companies and haven't gotten them. So I don't have that experience as interviews, but I will say having the confidence to interview, knowing that you're interviewing the company just as much as they're interviewing you, and having that confidence that if it doesn't work out, great, that company's probably wasn't fit for you anyway. It's not the other way around where like you're not a fit to them and feeling that kind of like discouragement to not like continue interviewing. I think interviewing is a great practice and you should definitely go out there interviewing these companies as though they owe it to you.
Agreed. I had a great conversation with someone who's breaking into the security industry, and it was the exact same words that I gave him. One, interviewing is a skill. Take as many interviews as you can, even if you don't want the positions. Actually take the ones for the positions that you don't want so you can get your practice in and really understand what people are looking for. And I also explained about fit, which is what you just described, that sometimes it's so completely out of your control. Like you don't know what's happening behind the scenes in these companies as to why you're not the right fit. And it could be a variety of things. And so I was sharing with him, not to get discouraged. Because, when you do 30, 35, 40 interviews, it's a process to keep that momentum up and that confidence up and going there every time with the energy and being excited and, all of that. So you had a great experience, with the company leaders coming to you, wanting you to come in and you not really wanting it. And they have to convince you why you should come in, which is very similar to the types of roles that I recruit now. Like if I was recruiting somebody like Chris, I would have to say, hey, Chris, this is the reason why you need to leave your awesome company and come work with company X. It's a different kind of a conversation when you have that seasoning confidence and people want you. They came after you. They wanted you to be there, which is fantastic. I'm really excited for your leaders. They can see that it's not all about certs and education and experience, and they're giving you the on-the-job training. They knew what skills you brought to the table. Like you said, you can teach the technical stuff they're teaching you. Sounds like a great company.
I love it. I mean, I had more fear in myself leaving it than I do like where my mental headspace is now, but I love it. I think, like I said, 2 years ago, I would have never met this. I would have never met you, be on here and like be a part of the networking groups. Me and Chris met at Rest and Tech Talk where I did my first presentation was literally about how restaurants and IT have some similarities in their DevOps processes. And I would never done that. Like, my whole thing was like 2 years ago, I'd just be counting money as an HR bookkeeper. I was a bookkeeper in the Clyde's restaurant group. So as far as HR and money and food, talk to me about those three things. I can talk all day, but if you're talking to me about infrastructure and IT and AWS and Azure, I know enough to be dangerous, hence why I'm in the sales role now. So you don't have to be completely technical to be in a technology position. So I'm in sales. So when I talk to a lot of my restaurant friends who are interested in jumping, out of the restaurant life, I say, hey, come into sales. And that's like not something people push for to a degree because sales has its own stigma.
I think she froze.
I don't know what happened. Chrystina, are you there?
Oh, no.
What happened? She dropped?
I don't know. I think she froze.
But man, like something about
don't know what happened. No.
Oh,
Chrystina.
Hello?
Oh, she can hear us. Okay. Well, we've had some technical difficulties. Welcome, 2020. But no, it's not your fault at all. She's IMing us. I love how her leaders saw in her that background and that experience. And I wish more leaders would focus on bringing in people who don't necessarily have all the certs and the years of experience, et cetera, et cetera. So
yeah, definitely. And to be able to teach that on the job and to take someone and provide them with that opportunity is truly amazing. And when I heard her talk and the confidence that she had in coming into this industry and being able to translate her previous experiences into tech and to show how she had these transferable skills of communication and problem solving and everything like that, and bringing them to her new role. That's the reason I wanted to bring her on here to show other people that are in a similar stage that they can do it too.
I really want to learn more about the synergies between the restaurant industry and the technology space. It sounds like a fascinating talk.
Yeah, definitely. See, if she could leave sage advice, job seekers keep an open mind and don't get discouraged by the head trash. Okay, so definitely. Well,
Chrystina, we're going to try and see if we could get you back on. Let's try. Let's see if we can get her back on.
Hi.
yay.
Hi. I don't know what just
Sorry
happened,
about that.
but glad you are back on. So yeah, tell us how you got from the coordinator role into the sales position.
Great question. Sorry, I don't know when I cut off, and I was just like, I don't know if people can see this little chat box. So I was just like, oh my God, let me just type right here. So pretty much in February, we were coming to find that the project coordinator position wasn't as valuable for me to be involved in. And we didn't really, right now we actually don't have a project coordinator position open in the sense. So what they came to me in February was like, hey, Chrystina, how do you feel about sales? You like to talk to people. Would you be interested in doing that? And like I said, being open-minded as a job seeker or, person in this transition space is, hell yeah, I'll try it out. Like, what do I got to lose? As long as you're not going to fire me. And I did say this, as long as you're not going to fire me for not hitting quota, I'm in. I am neck deep in it. And I think for what it's worth now, I gave it my all. And now I'm leading several networking groups. And I haven't sold a single thing, which is okay. So I would say I'm a little silly on that end, but that's all right. As far as the sales process in this industry, it is way different than your 1 hour lunch sales process in a restaurant, right? So for that, and my boss is very supportive and he's quite aware, though I haven't sold anything, I'm doing all the right things to lead me up to building that kind of pipeline and that sales, referral networking groups and things like that. So I'm doing all the right things, I think, as a sales executive, even though I haven't sold anything specifically, but I know I'm making the right connections. And that's kind of what happened was the project coordinating role, I wasn't fitting it as valuably as I could. And at the same time, they didn't have a well-versed project coordinating role for me to fill. Mm-hmm. But they saw a need in having a sales representation, and that's when they asked me to be a part of it. And that was still scary too, believe me or not. I'm in sales training, which is really helpful. I have another colleague of mine who is more seasoned in this IT sales space, which is super helpful for me to pick his brain and be a part kind of asking all the right questions as well. And
Right.
Mentor.
I don't regret any bit of it now. I mean, the stigma behind being in sales was definitely looming over me. A lot of my friends were like, oh gosh, you're going to be grinding all day, 80-hour weeks and stuff like that. And I mean, I grind, and I mean, it's definitely a lot of work, but I love it. It really feels like a long day at the restaurant for the most part. I'm just like talking to people and shaking hands and enjoying a good time. I will say my sales role isn't your typical. There are a lot of people that I know who see my sales role and they're like, hell yeah, Chrystina, can I do what you do? There's some parts that you can replicate out of the position that I'm in, but my company is a young company in the sense of size. So we kind of have a lot of wiggle room with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So I get to do all these things. From the outside looking in, I just network a lot. I shake a lot of hands. I have a lot of lunches and stuff. So they see those kind of benefits, but there's a lot behind that that goes in after that. So when I do talk to people who are like, yo, I want to do sales, I'm like, okay, so how do you feel about not having a nightlife and having your emails constantly on all the time? And your vacations, you're going to still be reading emails and stuff. So there is kind of a trade there. But for me, I love it. It's just like a restaurant day for me in my head.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
For you to have that kind of passion, and it seems to be so seamless for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when something is relatively easy, or you look at it like, oh, this is just how it is. Whereas, someone like me might be banging my head against the wall, like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? It just shows that they really see what roles, where you fit best and where your experiences lie, and how you can be the most successful.
But I think you're also providing her with the tools and the opportunity. She
That too.
having a mentor. She mentions having a supportive leadership and allowing her to grow on the job. So I think that's an absolutely great advice. We're coming to the top of the half hour, and you mentioned sage advice, but I think the listeners would love to hear from you. What would be the one piece of sage advice that you would give to job seekers similar to yourself coming into the industry?
To be open-minded, that as much, and I have my bad days where I tell myself like, oh man, I'm not going to last. This is not going to work. And there's nothing really going to stop that. I can't tell you, that's going to go away. So just don't get discouraged by it. You're going to have bad days, but to be open-minded and willing to show some vulnerability in yourself and being able to go out of the way and ask questions and wanting to learn more. And that's why I say seasoned noob. A lot of people that I meet now, they're like, oh, Chrystina, you're such a great networker. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just seasoned. I'm still a noob because I still want to keep that, I don't know if that's the word, humble or modesty about it, to be open-minded, to continue learning. And, you might not be in the role where you want to be now, but there's something out there and something about this technology industry. I came in thinking they would not want me, but I'm in it now. And I'm just like, man, I want to bring my friends into here because it is such a welcoming space. There's so many things, like from IT recruiting, is one thing. There's just so many areas of technology that somebody like me could be in. And somebody who is like scooping ice cream right now and who builds their own computer at home can still come in here and be like, hey, I only scoop ice cream, but I love this passion. So passion behind it for sure. But just staying open-minded and having that passion to learn and continue learning and being open-minded. And that's like a new thing I'm trying to get myself around and kind of minimize the head trash, is having a better mindset in what I do. And something that Chris Cochran said that a couple interviews back was, you're here for a reason. Like, you shouldn't question why you're there. They didn't put you in that space to waste up,
right,
air in this. They put you there for a reason. So I think for those who are already in the space or jumping into it already, like, the head trash is there. It's not going to go away, but just don't get discouraged by it. But for those who are not there and who are like, oh, I'm interested, or, IT is kind of cool, like, be sure about it. Don't come in here thinking just because the money is good on this side of the world that you're going to fit and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So you have like some passion behind it, or you have that open-mindedness, go for it. Go neck deep in it, because you can't half-ass it, you know?
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I know you're a bit nervous, but
Did phenomenally well.
I only said a couple cuss words, so, you know, let's
That's
keep it down to
fantastic.
3. But yeah, I mean, for those out there, network, talk to people. People want to help other people. They just don't know how. And if you can tell them how to help you, that's the better.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on here and being our very first guest. I'm excited to see what 2020 brings us. I know we have Dr. Cybersecurity coming on in about a week too. So thank you so much, Chrystina. Thank you, Chris. And everybody have a good week.
Happy New Year's. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank
thanks,
you.
everyone.